Today, I'm going to demonstrate how you can create a mask that will allow you to match your topology to your Polypaint. So the first thing I'm going to do is load in a texture, and here I've got a cracked leather texture that I made, and then I'm going to fill the object with it to completely coat it. And as you can see, when I zoom in here, the texture is pretty soft. There's not a lot of contrast. And we'll talk about how we can change this up later. So for now, we're going to go to our texture map and say new from Polypaint. That's going to create a new UV map texture. Now turn off your texture so you can actually see what the Polypaint is going to look like, and we're going to click clone texture. Now over here you can see that texture has been added to our panel. So now that we've got that, what we can do is we can save it, and that'll allow us to have this as a mask forevermore, and we can edit it in Photoshop and do lots of stuff to it. Next, we're going to take it and we're going to load it as an alpha channel. Now the reason you want to do this is because you're going to be able to generate a mask from the alpha channel. So we're going to go over to masking, and we're going to go down to mask by alpha. So when I click this, it's going to create a mask based on the grayscale values. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the object with white so we can better see what the mask looks like. So now when I click mask by alpha, you can see that you have a mask projected across the entire sphere. Now I'm going to go up to layers and create a new layer. This is useful because after I deform my topology, I'll be able to adjust it. I'm going to name it Leather Deform, and then I'm going to go to the Deformation tab and inflate it. Now this is way more than what I need, but that's where the layer comes in handy. So I can go back to my layer panel. First, let me zoom in here so we can get a better view of how intense this deformation is. Alright, so now I can go back to my layer panel and dial it down a little bit so I can get a more realistic cracked leather texture. What we're going to do is we're actually going to emphasize these cracks using Polypaint now. So I've got the whole thing masked off, and I'm going to fill it with a dark brown. And I turn off my mask, and you can see now just the raised areas are colored brown. So now I can also invert the mask, and I can fill the cracks with a lighter color. So now we've emphasized those cracks, but you'll notice that we don't have good definition. What I'm doing now is I'm taking the mask I'd exported earlier and I'm adjusting it in Photoshop to give me more contrast. This will allow me to mask off the cracks specifically, and then I can have all the raised areas a flat white, which means I'll have way more control when I'm painting. You can do all kinds of adjustments here. Right now I'm just trying to get these cracks separated. So now I'm just going in, I'm doing the same thing, loading a mask, loading a texture, making an alpha, making a mask, and then painting. So now I'm actually going in and I'm just adding some variation in color. And this is going to give it a mottled leather look. Now I can inverse the mask, and I'm just going to tone down the cracks a little bit. They were a little too bright. And finally I still have that layer, so I can still adjust the topology however I want. I'm going to load up a new material, and there you have it. A leather texture where the cracks and the raised areas actually match the Polypaint, giving it that extra realistic look.